Hi, my name is Andre Ng from House of Knives, and today I'm going to give you an education about sharpening stones and eliminate a lot of different myths about them out there. So starting from entry level, we have silicon carbide stones. That's the entry level, the three green ones you see in front of us here. And as you get into the higher quality ones, you have the aluminum oxide stone here with the white and the brown, and then the highest quality ones being the Japanese water stones that actually come from Japan. And we'll also talk about other materials as well, such as diamond. So to start with, what you're getting from a sharpening stone when you go from a good, better, best scenario is not only the different grit of the materials that they come in, but also the composition of it. So starting at the silicon carbide, it is the hardest material out of the three stones that you see in front of us here, and that's actually not a good thing. You want it hard, but you also want the stone to be soft enough that it actually wears away, and thus as it wears away, it reflects and exposes more polishing properties of the stone. So from silicon carbide, we then go to aluminum oxide. And this one, particular one, comes in a great grit of 1000, 3000, but although it's a higher grit than the silicon carbide ones, it actually is a little bit softer and not as brittle. When you get into the highest quality ones, the famous Japanese water stones actually are a natural stone from Japan. This particular one is a 300, 1000 grit, but you can get them all the way up to about a 20,000 grit. And these are much more expensive than the synthetic stones. But for anyone who does a lot of specialized tools, there's nothing else like it. So let's talk a little bit about the grits of the stones. So basically, if you think about stones like sandpaper, they'll come anywhere from about 100 grit all the way up to, as I said, 20,000 grit. The lower the number, the coarser the stone is, and in general, the softer the stone is because it wears away. And in general, you'll want to use a coarser stone on knives that are very dull or badly worn. And then you want to finish off at the higher grit here, such as the 1000, to give you a really fine, polished, honed edge. Because basically, the better polished edge you have on it, the less resistance as you're cutting through your food and materials. We also have very popular diamond as well. So diamonds as an abrasive are the most efficient sharpener you can get in the world. And these are not made from like jewelry diamonds, but industrial diamonds. This particular one is called a quad stone. It's very popular because it has the 4 different grits here shown with the 150, 300, 600, and 1000 grit. So it gives you the most versatile and the most options available for sharpening your dull chisels or your knives. And diamond stones can be used with water, or they can be used dry. And that's a very common question that we get in terms of how do you lubricate a stone. So all good synthetic stones, you just utilize water. You don't want to use oil with them. You can use oil with them, but it's actually not as beneficial as water. And one of the downfalls of using oil, if you were to accidentally use it, you want to stay with oil. You can't mix oil and water once you start utilizing it with a stone. Now, the higher quality Japanese water stones, these you only use in water, and you'll soak them for upwards of about an hour, depending on the specifications by the manufacturer. Where the synthetic stones here, you can soak them literally just minutes before use. And then another very common question is size. So as you see in front of us here, we have stone from 4 inches all the way up to 7 inches. And the general rule of thumb is you want to have the stone as close to the longest length of knife that you're going to be sharpening with to fit. So in this situation, we have an 8-inch chef's knife we're going to be sharpening. So any of these stones here in the 7-inch range would be more than adequate. Ideally, you could have it longer would be better, but 7 inches is adequate. Now that we talk about sharpening, this one's been soaking here for a few minutes. And this is our silicon carbide stone here with a 400, 1000. So the key with any sharpening, whether it be a maintenance device or a stone, it's all about number one, angle, correct angle, and secondary to that is technique. So as a lot of you guys may or may not know, whether you're utilizing a steel or a stone, if you know that as your 90 degrees, your knife to your stone, half of that gives you about 45, half of that again gives you that 22.5 degrees. Depending on the usage of the knife and the durability of the edge you want on it, you're going to be sharpening or honing your knives anywhere from 15 to 20 degrees, I would say. So the general rule of thumb is the higher the angle, the more durable your edge is. The lower the angle, the sharper it is, but less durable it is. So it's a give and take depending on the type of cutlery and what your personal preference is. So when utilizing a sharpening stone, it's all about technique and angle. So if you've got that proper angle on there. In this case here, I'm going to use about 20 degrees. I'm going to place my knife at the edge of the stone here, and basically I want to put my fingers across the blade so I get even pressure. And as I work across the stone, I cut into the stone and finish at the tip. Very simple. And the key is consistent pressure across the blade, and then you would alternate the blade to do the other side as well. And that's really the key and the challenge when you're doing any type of sharpening, to maintain that consistent angle on both sides. So one of the greatest old tricks that you can use to help judge the angle that you're sharpening at is just take a nice big black marker here, and what you want to do is score the edge of your knife here, right along the actual cutting edge. What that's going to allow me to do is judge the angle that I'm sharpening at to give me an indication whether I'm holding the knife too low or too high an angle. I'm going to go about 20 degrees on this one, but if I happen to get it too low and I pull it across my stone, I'm going to show you what's going to happen here. As you may see here on the blade, a lot of the steel has been worn away quite high up onto the felt, whereas if I have the correct angle at that about 20 degrees, right, you'll see that the wear is much lower on the blade here. So that's the correct angle. I know my angle is correct because it's worn away the felt there, whereas if I look on the back side here, it's not as consistent, right? And it also gives me a good indication along the full length of the blade, right from the tip right to the heel, how the sharpening has worn away. So when you continue on at the correct angle, depending on the sharpness or dullness of your knife, if you will, that will dictate which grit you're going to start with. In this case here, I've chosen the 1000 because this knife is pretty sharp, so I'm just basically just giving it a touch-up. And if it's pretty sharp already, then you can alternate your strokes from one side to another. If it was in really bad shape and dull, then I would just work one side at a time before I go to alternating strokes. And basically, again, depending on the quality of the steel of your knife and the grit of the stone, it can take anywhere from 6 to maybe even 24 strokes on each side. So again, it's paramount, sharp knife is a safe knife, and thanks for watching today.